So no, that's not a native duck. It's actually the guy just down the street has some ducks, and so I just called his wife, told him one of the ducks was out, and I don't know. I don't know how you're going to catch a duck, but anyway, why you'd have ducks, I don't know. I mean, it's just a mystery. But after, we're going to talk a little bit about some coffee stuff. Like, I did some experiments this morning. So I did some experimenting this morning, and you know, I know a lot of people are not going to do a lot of experimenting. They're used to doing their coffee a certain way. You know, they put so many scoops in and so much water in, and they press the button, and that is one way to do it. And in that same regard, you know, I've done so far, I think, 175 roasts so far. And they're just, you know, little 4-ounce ones, but they're tests. And I've been giving this out to a whole bunch of different people. I'm not telling them how to brew it, what ratio to use, nothing. Just letting them brew it the way they normally brew it, because it's one of those things that if they like it the way they're doing it, they're going to be perfectly fine. There will be some that you'll convince that, yeah, you're going to get even a better cup if you start using a scale and a kettle and a pour over and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people are just going to continue the same way. So if it makes a good cup of coffee for them, excellent. That's what we're after. We're not trying to be like the gourmet hootie snooty coffee company of the world. We're just trying to provide better coffee for people and helping other people out, kind of thing. So in that regard, this morning I did a little, you know, experiment, and I didn't tell Sid. According to the Specialty Coffee Association of America, the ratio for coffee is supposed to be like a 1 to, I forget, 17, I think, whatever it was. So I made the ratio, and I did it up like they said. So you would take 1 gram to, I think it was 18 grams of water, and, you know, stretch that out over 2 cups of coffee. And I brewed it up and didn't tell Sid. So Sid has her coffee and she's like, this doesn't taste good. It was thin. So that, you know, little experiment, as soon as I took that same coffee, the same grind, and I changed the ratio back to 25 grams to 300, it was perfect again. So the story there is that when you change your ratios of water to coffee, that's one aspect. It's also the grind. How are you grinding it? If you take, you know, like if you take a scoop and you grind it a certain way, well, that scoop is going to have a different amount of coffee in it. I mean, picture the coffee being this big, okay, and how many of those would fit in your coffee scoop, as opposed to little tiny finely ground ones. How much is going to fit in? So that's going to determine too what the taste is going to be like. So, you know, part of this is, how do I get people to say, yeah, I'd like to try it, without having them have to go out and spend $75, $100. Just use it in their own brewer the way they're doing it. But it does take some experimenting, because you've got to get the grind right and you've got to get the ratio right for you. It doesn't have to be, you know, I don't like these terms of like, oh, this is the golden rule for coffee. I don't like that, because everybody's taste buds are different. I don't think anybody disagree there. So one person likes it one way and another person likes it another way. To me, there's no right or wrong there. That's perfectly fine the way it is. Is both of those people, if they're enjoying the coffee, that's the goal. I don't care how you produce it, whether it's a pour over, a drip pot, whatever it is. As long as you're enjoying the coffee, that's the goal. The trick is how to get people to, you know, try it. And that's why we're going to have sample packs, so that you can buy a smaller amount of a couple different coffees and say, oh, I like this one, I don't like this one, or I like all of them, hopefully. And then you'll be able to make your own choices. But each person has to make a little experimentation as to what they grind their coffee at, what size. I mean, and again, burr grinders are better than blade grinders. But if you've got a blade grinder, you should be able to get it well enough. There's tricks with that to get it so that it grinds adequately enough so you can get the right grind. But you've got to experiment and see what coffee works for you, what ratio of coffee to water works for you. It's not just a matter of taking the scoop into the thing and then throwing water on top of it. To get a good cup of coffee takes a little bit more work than that. It's a little bit, and I mean, the more work you put into it, the better your cup will probably end up being. Because if you use a scale and everything else, you're doing it more scientifically, so that you always end up with the same amount of coffee, the same amount of water, the same amount of, and that consistency. And I can tell you, after a while, it just becomes a pattern, a habit. You just automatically pull out the scale, you grind the coffee to a certain amount, put that in, do your bloom, boom. So it becomes a routine. And there are times, don't get me wrong, there are times when you can't do that. I know that. You know, when you get up, the average person gets up in the morning. They got to go to work, or they got a busy day, or whatever. All they want to do is go, boom, hit the, hey. I'm trying to do a video over here, and this one's listening to something else on her phone. Put your headphones on. But anyway, there is, and I think there's going to be, from what I've seen, so many people don't understand what a good cup of coffee can taste like. And until they try it, I mean, every person we've given coffee here to, even people that I know who maybe can't taste as well as they should, can, are like, oh, that was really good. And other people that we know that, you know, like coffee and have been other places, they're like, whoa, this is really good coffee.
Some of them can smell it in a plastic bag.
Right.
In their pocket.
Yeah. Sid went down the street, give some to a friend, and she walked into the store, and I smell coffee. And it was in a plastic bag.
In her pocket.
In her pocket, right. So, you know, a good coffee that's done up right is going to be something that you probably haven't experienced a lot of other times before. And it is more costly, but really, when you start looking at the cost of it, it's not super expensive. So just remember, there's probably going to be some experimenting you need to do, but in the long run, once you get it down, you'll be like, after...
Morning has a new...
Right. It's got a whole new perspective on things. And once you start having that, after a very short period of time, you'd go back to those other coffees and go,
What the heck is this?
right, exactly. Like, I used to drink this? So anyway, you got to experiment ratios, different grinds, before you can find what works for you.